So that's a step in the right direction.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Gen Z Movie Reviews number 17. I think we're on 17 now. That's
Wow.
crazy. Yeah, episode 17. It's crazy to think we've done it that many times. It also feels like, I don't know what it is. It feels like we haven't done this in a while, but we were here last week. So I don't know what's up with that. Before we get started, though, Luke, how are you doing, buddy? It's good to see you.
I'm doing swell. How about you?
Today was a big day. Yeah, I'm doing great. You know, we got to watch the infamous Independence Day, of course. This is the week of American independence, the week of 4th of July, which is this Friday. So, you know, we were trying to figure out, I wanted to do something patriotic, of course. And I want to celebrate America, the great country that we love. And, you know, in the very background here, if you can't exactly tell, we are in a boxing ring. And then you, of course, have the American flag waving above us. It's kind of hard to tell with both of us here. But I love this background. It's something, you know, of course, you know, this is Box Office Brawler. We're in the ring. We're talking about film. So that's sort of the idea. But, you know, we were trying to figure out what patriotic films to watch. You mentioned Patton, which I hadn't seen before. And I would like to see that because I don't know anything about it.
Likewise.
I was also thinking The Patriot, but I'm actually going to be joining Dark Hour, I believe this Sunday, to talk about The Patriot. So I'm looking forward to that. And I mean, other than that, you know, there's a couple other big ones. You know, I guess you got Forrest Gump. I guess that's sort of like an American classic. Geez, do any more ring a bell to you that kind of pop up?
We have Hacksaw Ridge.
Top Gun, Hacksaw Ridge. Yeah. Well, we'll be getting into more of our
Jaws.
American favorites. That doesn't count. You could be. No, that is not inspiring. That's not an inspiring story. I think, you know, when I think of like a patriotic film, I want to be inspired by American heroes, right? Oh, Rocky, duh. I mean, Rocky's Captain America. There you go. Lots of good ones. But yeah, today we're talking about Independence Day, the first one, 1996. We're not talking about the terrible sequel. Luke, you have not seen the sequel, right?
No, I have not, and I've heard terrible things.
Yes, I think it's the worst sequel I've ever seen in anything. And I really don't understand how you could possibly do that. I mean, it's the Jurassic World Dominion of the Independence Day franchise. Thankfully, they didn't give us a third one. That second one was just, I really don't know how they possibly screwed it up that bad. I need to rewatch it so I can narrow down the specifics, but it is an utter embarrassment and disappointment. Really sad because the first one here, I mean, it's iconic, you know. Going into this, I had seen Independence Day already. I've only seen it once. It was a long time ago. And I remember enjoying it, but I wasn't that psyched about it. And, you know, revisiting it again today, it felt great. You know, it felt good getting back into the seat and enjoying this, you know, this late 90s film. You know, I learned something interesting today that Independence Day, let's see, it was the most profitable film of all time at this point. It was, the highest grossing film of 1996. It made $817 million. Like, that's a lot. You know what I mean? And this is sort of like a solo original film. And it's like thinking about how much that's kind of adjusted now. I mean, that's definitely got to be probably about $1 billion in today's dollars. I'd be curious to know what the conversion is. But yeah, this was a big film back then. And another fun fact, just to let everybody know, you know, of course, when you think Independence Day, the big thing you think about is the president's main speech. Well, it turns out Bill Pullman, the great actor who plays the president, he improvised a lot of that. And, you know, I think when you think of like great American speeches in film, that's one that really sticks out. And it was a real pleasure to listen to that again. Unfortunately, I didn't feel like super inspired by it this time. Maybe just because it hit harder the first time. It didn't really land all that much with me, but I still respect it and I enjoyed it. But, you know, for people that aren't aware of this film, this, you know, back in 1996, it's crazy. That's almost 30 years ago now. And, you know, it's not an entirely complicated story. It's very interesting. You know, America in the late 1990s, you know, technology was sort of uprising. It was in the basic roots, not complicated. It's in its birth. They're not very advanced here. And the world seems to be doing just fine at this point in time until all these UFOs start surfacing. And these aren't just like normal sized UFOs. These things stretch miles and miles apart. I believe the president said that they were one of the UFOs that was hovering above New York City was 15 miles long. And when you see these things, it's unbelievable. I mean, they literally look like it's a city hovering over an entire other city. It's incredible. And it's like something I think they beautifully capture in this movie is I love seeing the horror of the whole situation, because it's a looming threat. You have these giant, like, horrifying discs hovering above you that really you have no idea what's going on, because I mean they hang out there for quite some time. I believe they hover for the first time for 6 hours, and then later, something terrible happens, and then later they resurface and they have another plan which lasts 32 hours, I believe. It's the timetable is a little weird here, and they all kind of work in conjunction with one another. But with all these UFOs showing up all over the world, everybody's caught by surprise. I love the way the people reacted to this, because this was a horrifying entry into the whole story, and seeing the panic and the havoc unleashed is just insane. Nothing is orderly at all. And I think that's one of the more enjoyable parts of the whole film, which I think a lot of people just gloss over when they think about Independence Day, is thinking about the havoc that unleashed, because people are freaking out and the cities are just a nightmare at this point. I don't even know how anybody could possibly escape this mess. And especially when shit actually does hit the fan and the UFOs do something crazy, which we'll get to. But, eventually, of course, the UFOs, you figure out what they're really there for. They're not, they don't want to have peace. They're not there for educational purposes. They're not here just for discovery. They want to kill everybody. They are merciless. They have no peace. They're not interested in any sorts of life except themselves. They want to harvest the resources in the whole world, not just America. So they start blowing up key landmarks all over the world. And, no
negotiations,
totally non-negotiable. In America and all these other major countries, they're all caught with their pants down. And they have to find a way to disarm and destroy these giant UFOs with the limited technologies they have and the limited resources, because a lot of their main resources were totally a pittance at this point. I believe at some point in the film, they mentioned that only 15% of the American aircraft was available for action. And it's like, to think about that is just insane. And, of course, while this whole threat looms and all of this conflict arises, you really just follow three main characters. You follow Jeff Goldblum, you follow the president, Bill Pullman, and then you also follow Will Smith, and he's like a cocky hotshot fighter pilot. Jeff Goldblum, he's sort of like a scientist, technological expert. And he's really good with like satellite technologies, and they all try to find ways they devise plans to take out this looming threat that they really don't know how to deal with. And we'll get into it a little bit more specifically throughout this whole stream. But before we do, Luke, why don't you tell me what were some of your highlights watching this, and how did you feel watching this for the first time? Because this is the first time you've seen Independence Day, right?
Yes, that is correct. I was asking around to a couple coworkers today prior to watching the film, is this a horror film? And I get the same answer. No, it's like a edge your seat action type movie. And I really enjoyed it. I really wanted the I was hoping that wasn't, similar to Close Encounter of the Fifth Kind. I wanted malicious. I wanted like a malevolent alien, and that's what we got. These there was a scene. We can spoil, right? I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, we spoil.
Okay. There was a scene when there, who was it? The president, Bill Pullman, was trying to talk down or level with the alien. As he was connecting to the alien through the. I don't even know who that was. He just, he was just saying volunteer or whatever.
Dude,
he was a doctor. He tried to level with him, try to talk him down, trying to understand him, but the alien just, almost looked right through him. Was like, nope, death, die.
Oh yeah, there's no hope.
Nope. We want you. We want you dead. We want your Earth. This is our home now. Yeah, that was intense, because you're like, oh yeah, it's a lost cause. Lost cause is the word I was thinking about during this movie. It's and also it's just. I'll get to the negative thoughts later.
We'll talk about that.
But that's what I thought about it so far.
Okay. So you mostly had a positive reaction. I was worried. I thought you wouldn't be into it, because our friend, we watched it with three of our other friends, all Gen Z.
That was
about
rough.
23, 22. I don't know what Ethan thought. Actually, I don't know what Andrew thought. I only know what Jackson thought. The other Jackson,
we heard it.
He hated it. He hated it. That was the
Yes.
first time he's seen it, and he is a pilot, and he's going to school to be a pilot,
which makes
so
sense.
he was not into it, and he thinks there's a lot of
He said the same thing
ridiculous
about
choices.
Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. So those
Is it of the
alien
fifth kind or the third kind? I don't remember.
third
Close
kind.
Encounters of the third.
Oh yeah, third kind.
I think
Sorry,
it's third kind. Yeah,
I keep on saying fifth, but he like you said, he's like a pilot or whatever, and he in a lot of those alien movies, you know, those are the protagonists that try to stop the alien, and it's so. I mean, granted, we've never had this happen, so we don't really know.
Yeah,
what would happen, but yeah, we definitely heard his thoughts today, and we were hoping that he was on the stream, so some of you guys can.
I feel like there was kind of a nod. I think they made 2 nods to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. One was, I know Will Smith, he made like an offhand joke about, now that was a close encounter. And then I didn't think about it till afterwards, but the first time they tried to communicate with the UFOs, they send up a helicopter, and it has these 2 giant boxes with a bunch of bright lights, and they like beep, and they turn, they like flash, and I just thought of Close Encounters of the Third time when I saw that. And unfortunately for these guys, it didn't work. It did not it did not calm their presence. They were pretty evil, and that was sort of their first strike was when that happened. But as we always talk about, Luke, we talk about the characters and how important characters are to make a film, make it or break it. So I'm definitely curious to know what your thoughts on some of these characters are, because these guys, without these guys, this film just really wouldn't have worked. Let's start with the president, because there's 3 main characters here that are obviously standouts. There's a few other side ones that get a little bit of screen time, but you can't have the film without President Whitmore, Bill Pullman. Early on in the film, what caught my attention right off the bat was how on the news he was kind of described as like a young leader with like doubted capabilities. People didn't really think he was, I don't know, competent enough to be president, and he kind of went in with kind of a bold persona, and then as he's been president, it hasn't been all that exciting. So it sort of sets in motion a revival, like everything that happens with him, because out of what's so inspiring about this film is watching all of these main characters step up to meet the challenge of what's coming. I mean, it's like you can't even imagine how you would feel or react to what's happening here, right? I mean, an alien invasion on Earth, and it's like a force so unimaginably powerful that you can't even fathom what you could possibly do to it. And it really is surprising that they were able to defeat the aliens in the end, because I mean, it's pretty much like fighting fire with sticks. It's surprising that they are able to get as far as they got. And we're going to get into it further later on and break down and analyze like some of their methods, because a lot of them really didn't make any sense if you think about it, like logistically, and just with like the technology that was available at the time, because it was not very superior. So we'll get to that later. I'm excited to talk about that. But just talking about Bill Pullman, for me, I loved him. I think he was easily my favorite character in this film. I love seeing, he was an inspiring leader, of course. Everybody knows him as the inspiring president, of course, with the iconic speech. But throughout the whole film, I think he just brought a lot of gravitas to the whole center scene. He really, without him, it would not have worked. I really enjoyed watching him. And, I just love seeing strong leadership. And, he was just competent from start to finish. And you sort of see him grow into a leader too, because in the very beginning, he's kind of like, he's subtle. He's kind of soft-minded. He hasn't really found his footing yet. But this ongoing threat, a wartime president, he stood up and he handled it well. By the end of the film, he ends up not only fighting fire on the field in the front lines alongside the other pilots, he's also led this giant revolution. I mean, it's literally a revolution against the aliens, and it's a worldwide effort. He was able to lead that, and that's an amazing thought, to think of one person able to lead a whole world of a fighting force to achieve a common goal. So that's pretty cool. I loved that. And, at the end of the day, it was just a powerful performance. This makes me want to revisit a lot more of Bill Pullman's roles, because I haven't seen him in very much. And I was just telling you before the film started that if the audience here saw Thunderbolts, his son, Lewis Pullman, was Sentry, which was like the villain, the like really depressed dude with the 2 personalities. That was him. But Luke, how did you feel about President Whitmore, Bill Pullman's character?
Okay, I'm gonna start off with Bill Pullman himself. I grew up watching a couple movies, you know, ever since I was little, and I enjoyed seeing him as an actor and everything.
Oh,
You know,
so you're pretty familiar with him.
Yeah, so I was
Hmm.
pretty excited to see that he was the lead protagonist in this movie, the US president. And like I was going to say, but you already said it, but Lewis Pullman, his son, Century from the Thunderbolts. You can't unsee it now. You
Yeah.
know, I wouldn't have known, I want to put it together, but once you said that, I'm like, that is Century.
That's weird.
The same hairstyle and
They look
everything.
pretty similar.
Very similar. Father and just like Wyatt Russell and yeah. So as the character, I really enjoyed he was a very bold president, like you said. He really trusted his gut. It was almost like he was ignoring his he fired his secretary of defense, because he was kind of being a douche. And he was just kind of following his own orders and whatnot. And he was I really respect a president that's a what do you call it, a wartime president like he was. He was very brave and patriotic, and he flew one of those jets by himself and risked his own life. Yeah, I really enjoyed him in this. He was he definitely served a purpose, and got a lot figured out for the his people. He made a lot of the calls, a lot of there's nothing much you can do in this kind of situation, when
sure,
a hostile 15-mile long is blowing up city by city. You have to you nuke. There's no saving the people on the land. You have to do it, or else the world's theirs. So I respected his his ego and everything.
Yeah, definitely. The wartime president, right? You never know how somebody's really going to act. And that's where he stood up. That's cool. Yeah, I have no idea what that would be like. I hope I never know what that's like. And I don't think I'll ever be president, so I shouldn't have that problem.
You never know.
But you never know. You never know. Box office brawler for president. But gosh, what was I going to say? Something that I was like surprisingly taken by was I loved his relationship with his wife and his daughter too. Like I almost got choked up when he's in the hospital, when he's with his daughter and his wife, and the doctor tells him that she has internal bleeding and there's nothing they can do. And his little interaction he had with his wife, he's like, the doctor told me everything's gonna be okay.
Gaslighting her.
Yeah, and he was like, clearly he was lying, and she's like, you're such a liar. And then they kind of like tear up together. I was like, oh, that actually hit. I was kind of surprised. So that's always something I enjoy watching. Is I love great relationships between family members, father daughter, father son, father wife. So
but come on, there's they could have done something. I mean, what?
We don't know if she's dead or not either. I mean, that wasn't confirmed, but we didn't see her later in the movie either.
You can't put her under and cut her open and see if you can stop the bleeding. I mean, they didn't even try.
Know.
I mean, it's the president's wife. Come on, the first lady.
Literally. Here, let's talk about another one now. Of course, this is also Will Smith. I guess this was actually his breakout role. He was famous before this for I think it was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yep.
And then, but this was like his big movie, and this kind of put him in the limelight. This was his debut, July 4th debut as sort of a leading man hero. And yeah, in here he's Captain Steven. Obviously, it's Will Smith, and you know what? His character is not that complicated at all. He's the hotshot fighter pilot that puts his life on the line several times through here, and he doesn't really expect any sort of accolades, but he just does it because he's a brave guy. He's brave. He loves the fight, and he loves making himself useful. And really, I was trying to think about him further, and other than just being an eager combative pilot and a capable man that wants to start a family and wants to be, with his girl, there's really not too much to say about him. I mean, he's really not that complicated when you think about him. Do you have any interesting insights into his character that stick out to you?
Yeah, he really played the hot shot that was not a prick for the first time.
That's true. That's true.
You know,
He could have easily done that.
and are you still going about Will Smith?
No,
I'll wait till you're done because I've
no,
some
I'm
things.
done. Yeah, let's hear what you
Okay,
say
Will
about Will
Smith.
Smith.
I went into this movie thinking that I was not going to respect the character just because of his former past.
Oh
I was
my gosh!
not that
What are
I
you-
dislike him. Not
what
that
are
I
you
dislike.
talking about?
I can't.
The slap? Who
I don't. Yeah,
cares?
I don't like him anymore after that because he became like pathetic. He just became like
It
now.
wasn't that bad.
No, it's bad for him. It ended his career. You can't even he can't even have a fight scene anymore. But
That's
without
true.
people talking. But
He did
it.
well. He was in the new
He
Bad Boys, and everybody
yes.
liked him in that, though.
Yeah, but he can't hit anyone now. But anyway, but I thought I was going into this movie thinking, oh yeah, Will Smith. But his role really made you forget about all that and showed how cool he was back then. Like
Mhm.
he this was his highlight. This was his prime. Was the late '90s, early 2000s. He
Yeah.
had that swagger, like the notorious Will Smith and Hancock and all ruthless and whatnot. But nowadays he's just so spiritual. I don't know that he just acts yeah.
Spiritual.
Oh yeah. He just the way he talks, he just ever since his incident, he
Oh,
just is very touching, and he
oh,
was just
weird.
so badass back then.
I didn't know
And
that.
yeah. Oh yeah. I've seen a lot, but Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to this, this was definitely his breakout role, one of his biggest films to this day. That's how I feel about it. That's just me. I just don't like him anymore. He's just, he's
Well,
kind of,
did you
I
see
don't
the
know.
video? Did you see the video of him where I guess he's this is new. Like I think this came out today or yesterday, where he's in this giant crowd of people and he's like rapping or he's singing a song and he's trying to get everybody hype and nobody is playing along
Wait,
with
when was
it.
that? Just recently?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
he
like
said, if you see
yesterday.
me on stage, expect me on that stage. And I was like, dude, drop it. You're
Oh,
just gonna make a
nobody liked it.
no. Like, don't create a diss track right now about Chris Rock. We already talked
Oh, is
about this
that what it
man.
was about?
Yes, he was diss tracking Chris Rock.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's why I don't like him anymore. He
Just a
apologized, made a all
parody.
sad apology, and now he's just gonna go at it again. We already know the two don't like each other anymore.
Yeah,
But
that's
anyway,
fair. Here, let's talk about there's one more main character, of course, which is Jeff Goldblum here. I haven't really seen him in very much. I need to rewatch Jurassic Park because obviously that was his big role, of course. And this movie reminded me why I love him as a younger actor. He has a certain charm to him where he's kind of nerdy and dorky, but he's also really cool. And it's hard to
hilarious.
put your finger on it. And he's funny. It's just a weird mix. And I think he's funny because his mannerisms are kind of funny and the way he
Mhm.
says things and I don't know, just like his attitude, especially now, he's like super kooky now, of course. But back then, I don't, he's not like that silly, at least not in the movies I've seen him in. But yeah, Jeff Goldblum here, he's also another one of those interesting characters that I loved about this. David Levinson, he's a genius satellite technician. And I guess he works for a cable company, but in his past, he was like a brilliant scientist, but he just kind of put that away to pursue this. And, he's estranged from his wife. She pops up quite a few times in the film. I couldn't exactly put my finger on what her role was in this. I guess I thought maybe she might have been like chief of staff or like press secretary to the president, Bill Pullman, but I couldn't really put my finger on it. But he just never really chased like a big purpose. But just like everyone else in this movie, everyone, with this giant looming threat, everyone was inspired to be the best version of themselves and to embrace their greatest gifts and traits. And that's something I loved about this across the board, especially with Danny Quaid's character, which we'll talk about later because he's not prominent. But I loved just the inspiring message here that, despite no matter how low you are, you could always make a difference if you step up to reach a higher calling. Because sometimes life does that for us, right? Sometimes we got to step up to to pitch in if it's important. So Jeff Goldblum's character was a great example of that, because he figured out something that nobody knew. He put himself out there. He went through hell to try to get to the president. And if it weren't for him putting himself out there, driving all the way to the White House, then the president and all of them would be dead. And probably everybody would be dead, because he was really one of the biggest stepping stones to eradicating this whole alien invasion. So it just kind of shows you what one small person can do to make a big difference. I really enjoyed that about him. Luke, do you have any thoughts about Jeff Goldblum's character here?
I love Jeff Goldblum. He's a very rare, very rare guy when it comes to like acting and just him in general. He just has that, I don't know if you know anybody like this, but you just look at them and you just start laughing because just they're just funny, and like they don't even have to try to be funny. But I really like him. I agree with you. I enjoy him early on in his career because he's not like Thor Ragnarok. You know what I'm talking about. Like he's I mean, he's funny in that, but he's constantly trying to crack jokes and whatnot. But he was pretty serious in this one. And you're right.
I love his serious side.
Oh yeah, he's great because he is so like, ambitious and like he knew what he needed to do. No matter what the difficulties were. To get to getting to the president. He was very intelligent in this film. He was one of the characters that saved the movie. For me, at least. There were only three of those, mainly just the three, the big three, Pullman, Smith, and Goldblum. Those three really saved it for me. But I really enjoyed him in this. That's really all I got. He just, he fit right in, and he was courageous, and he worked great with Will Smith in the very end.
Yeah, I loved their camaraderie. They were a great little team. Before we move on, thank you all for talking to us in the chat. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channels if you haven't yet already. We appreciate you. And let's say hi to everybody real quick. Proctophile, sup, man? Sup, nerds?
Sup, Procto?
We're doing good, man. It's good to see you. Good to see you, buddy. Gord King's here too. Hey, Gord. Good to see you, man.
Can I tell Proctophile something? That hit me hard. Proctophile, I love Thor Ragnarok, and he was hilarious in that. A lot of people don't agree, with that, but like Jackson here. But I really enjoyed him in that. I laughed, about every moment he was in it. Just letting you know that. Just so we're on the same page.
Gord King. Independence Day sequel is laughably awful. Thank God I didn't have to pay for that theater visit. Oh my gosh. I can't imagine how disappointing that would have been to see.
What year was that?
It wasn't that long ago. Maybe 2016.
Let me see.
Why don't you look that up?
Released in 2016. Yeah, good job.
Wow, good guess. Cass Styles. Independence Day is so iconic. Come on, Luke. She's seen it and you haven't.
Yeah, she's seen it twice. She watched it again tonight.
Good for her. I like that. It is iconic. Today, I was reminded of that too. Mm-hmm. Good. Gord King. Saw F1 today. It's fantastic. Yes.
We agree.
That's a must-see.
Brad Pitt for the win.
That's a new 4th of July classic. That should be played every 4th.
Absolutely.
It's not really patriotic. That's the only thing I think I would update is it'd be nice if it was a little more.
Brad Pitt makes everything patriotic.
But yeah, just him being there makes a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Gord King also says he read the Independence Day novel. Not a bad read. I didn't know that. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Gord King says Goldblum's not really a scientist. He's a highly intelligent cable repairman. Oh, okay. I think he went to MIT for some scientific degree, but I might have misheard that. I like that. Jada kind of looks like one of the aliens, not gonna lie. Yeah, that's true. She does. Their heads are way bigger than hers, though. Hers is small and very circular.
Yeah, there's a thing called Photoshop.
Yeah, and Gorky, he also says movie effects have also aged pretty well. And a lot of it was practical, and it looked good. It didn't look bad. Those UFOs looked great. I loved how they turned out. Independence Day definitely has its objective flaws, but it's highly enjoyable popcorn fun, and the character work is still pretty solid. Yeah, it's just fun at the end of the day. We're gonna nitpick soon, because there's a lot of silly choices they make here.
Mhm.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, yeah. See, he did go to MIT. That is true. He just didn't have the ambition to do anything of that. Oh my gosh! And Proctophiles does not like doesn't like Jada Pinkett Smith. Nobody seems to like her. I think people like her less than they like Will Smith.
Well,
That
yeah.
whole thing made her look bad too.
Well, yeah. I mean, he thought it was funny, and then he looked over at her.
Oh
If it weren't for
gosh.
her, none of that would have happened, honestly.
Yeah, man. All right, cool. Well, thanks everybody for joining us in the chat. I know. So, yeah, obviously a lot of great characters here. Very important. They make the film, but you know, there's a lot of shocking moments. Clearly, and every time we watch a movie, I always want to talk about the shocking moments because when you think about some of your favorite films, the films that have those like standout scenes that stick with you, those are the films you remember the most, and those are the ones you admire and you want to revisit. And I think this movie does have quite a bit of shock value. I I think they try a lot, but I think some of it really works. But Luke, do you have any moments that kind of caught you off guard and stick with you a little more than others?
Yeah, I mean, the shots were, at first it was just, a building by building. It was the Empire State Building that completely exploded.
Oh
And
yeah.
then it was the whole city. I was like, and then the White House. That was insane.
Yeah.
I was commenting left and right on that. I was like, what? That is insane. That is catastrophic. I mean, I thought it was just gonna be like, a few explosions here and there, just some bombs being dropped. No, these cities were being completely sent to ash.
Yeah. Flattened.
Like that. That was when I knew these aliens were like, the end of the line,
Yeah, they were awful. They were terrible. Yeah,
Yes.
that was something that stuck out to me too, was seeing the aftermath. I mean, it was a disaster. I think I have an image here because this was sad. Was seeing the Statue of Liberty
Surprised that
in
survived.
in shambles, right? I mean, isn't that terrible? That's such a sad image. It's an image of hope and light to so many people, and then there it is, destroyed, broken,
Yeah.
distraught, and in pieces in the water.
And also one more thing. The fact that it's 15 I know we said that, but like I'm a runner, and that is a long way.
Yeah.
Just the thought of it just blows my mind. Like, I mean, that, and also, like, there's no excuse why they couldn't have seen this thing coming. Just saying.
Well, it just
Just-
kind of like appeared in space out of nowhere.
Oh, it did. Okay.
Yeah,
So, like,
I don't think.
went super speed. We're not.
Yeah,
Okay.
like the main
Wilkie.
mothership or whatever just came out of nowhere. Wilkie's movies and music. Hey, all. Good to see you, man. We love Wilkie here. And I like calling him Wilkie too. That's yeah, it's fun. But yeah, I love the scope. I mean, just look at this. You got the city here. Look how tiny this city looks compared to that giant UFO. It's just insane. Yeah, I mean, those are of course shocking moments. I was also like, Randy Quaid, so Dennis Quaid's brother, he's in this, and I've never really been a big fan of his, just because I'm not a big fan of the vacation films, and of course those are probably his most popular movies he's been in. And here he plays a drunken pilot that's really aimless. He doesn't really he doesn't really have anything going on in his life. And you later learn that he was he was a fighter pilot in Vietnam, and he was messed up from that experience and had some severe PTSD. And I loved seeing his transformation, and his whole story shocked me. And that kind of stood out to me the most from start to finish. He starts off as kind of a loser. He's crop dusting, and I guess he crop dusts a city area instead of a place he was, I guess, supposed to be crop dusting, maybe paid to. It might have been his own land. I'm not sure. But he got in big trouble. Everybody made fun of him. And then, as the story progressed, he found his place, and he escaping the UFOs, he makes other friends. He runs into Will Smith, and then he is recruited by the U.S. Air Force to stand up and take arms. And he does one of the most important sacrificial plays of all time. And I loved seeing him take up that mantle and being that hero, despite all of the pain that he's had in his past, and really taking on the challenge, because that was really another just shocking element in itself. Was I loved the rebellious revolution side of all this. I loved that they were so low on qualified pilots that they now had to start the U.S. Air Force, and really just the government altogether. They had to start asking people, if you have any kind of flight experience, please step up and help us out and fly these super expensive jets with super expensive, ultra lethal weaponry and join us. And he was one of those that stood up. And I loved that aspect. I loved seeing the guerrilla warfare and bringing back these old timers. That was just it felt very Star Wars, the rebellion, revolution. And I just felt really tied. Like that was some parts of Star Wars I really enjoyed. And here we are in a modern setting where it's like, we're flying, U.S. fighter jets against aliens. It was cool. But yeah. And then just seeing what he did in the end, he did the kamikaze and he blew up the UFO. And because of that, not only did he have like an epic moment as he was flying up, he said some like famous words and such. He had a great final dialogue before he passed. But, that choice he made then sparked the destruction of all of the rest of the UFOs, because they learned that this is how you destroy the UFOs. You send up, I guess you could either kamikaze it, or, you fire up some missiles up into the center where all of that power is generated, and it blows up the whole thing. Pretty simple. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of a shocking element. I didn't think I would care about his story until by the end. I loved it. It was awesome. Do any more come to mind for you, Luke?
Yes. That drunken character. What's his name again?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. What's his name?
Yeah. Well, I just know the actor's name.
Okay,
Randy Quaid.
Okay, Randy Quaid. Was he actually, abducted?
Oh, that was the other thing. Yeah, I bet he was.
Yeah, he was touched by these aliens. Allegedly, sexually, which is, yeah.
Oh gosh.
That obviously that was
the joke. Yeah.
He was, it never really, it came from his PTSD from Nam and everything. We all know
he was abducted.
He was not abducted by these aliens.
You don't think so?
No, because they would have made it.
They had shown up, but that was like 30 years earlier.
Yeah, and he claims that he's going to discuss it once he has a beer, but he kind of walks away because he probably, he's either embarrassed or he just, he has nothing to support his claims. But he really impressed me and changed my mind about him towards the end of the movie, because I thought he was just pathetic, pathetic drunk, weird. He was. I mean, rewatch it. He was. Yeah. And then it's kind of sad that he left his like family behind too, but he sacrificed. He won. He won it for everyone. You would think that you think that Goldblum or Goldblum and Will Smith, they won too, but he was the one that made the final play. Mm-hmm. Kind of reminded me of when, I'm gonna bring it up, when Iron Man blew up the mothership in Avengers. That's a good comparison.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's like the same thing. And he died. To save the whole planet. So he changed my mind towards the end.
Okay. I think something else that caught me off guard, and we talked about this extensively, was how relaxed all the government officials and employees were when all of these non-government affiliated people were just finding themselves in ultra secure, no access locations within Area 51 and these other places, like in the White House. You had Jeff Goldblum's dad just wandering around, and just a few other stowaways. It's like, what are these guys doing here? I thought it was kind of like, I was thinking, my thought process for Area 51, it's like, there's literally giant UFOs all over the place. Like, do we really need to hide this anymore? But at the same time, there could be some pretty sensitive material here. So I don't know. That kind of
these guys would have been shot dead.
Oh yeah, they were not supposed to see that. No. But yeah, so what? We're saying a lot of positive things about this, but there are negatives. There's things that are silly, like 80s action, but this is 90s, late 90s. I guess it's 90s. 90s silly quirks. What do you think didn't work about the movie? What do you think were some of the low points about this film?
I already talked so positively about Bill Pullman, but I don't know. I think unprofessional would be the wrong term for his character. You know, he's so clearly desperate for solutions. So I can't.
Man.
What do you mean, man? I mean, he's a president under attack from aliens. He has to make bold decisions, but he's so clearly desperate for different solutions because nobody has an answer, and he is the man in power, so he has to make crazy or genius solutions up. So I just feel like he was too cool to be a president, I mean, no offense, but he was just too subtle and too welcoming to I hate to say welcoming because these people needed to get out of here. Yeah. But I'm just really gonna speak about how the fact that they just let all these random people run around military bases and go through the
yeah.
It didn't make much sense. It was quite stupid.
Well, yeah, a lot of the problems too were tactically. Our friend Jackson, he was complaining about a lot of the tactical choices they made, and I completely agree with him. One of the few comments he made had to do with the whole maneuver. One of the first encounters that the Americans have with UFOs is they send up hundreds of their jets. Well, it looked like hundreds. It was a ton of them. They sent a ton of them up to the sky to approach the UFOs, and they were all armed and ready to attack. And this was shortly after the helicopters were sent and were there to communicate, which failed. And they all just started. I think what would have been nice is if they just sent out a few jets to test the waters and see if their weapons had any kind of impact. Instead, they had all of these jets. I mean, tons, if not 100. There had to have been more. And they fire a few missiles, and they find out there's a shield, and literally all of them get destroyed. It seemed like the only person that survived was Will Smith in that entire encounter. And later on, you learn only 15% of the whole, the whole Air Force was left to defend the country. I mean, that's pretty terrible, 15%. So I think that maneuver was probably a big reason for that. And then he also mentioned that they also didn't towards really pretty much throughout the whole movie. Later, of course, they figure out the weakness, but it's kind of ridiculous that they thought they could do some damage by firing these smaller ballistic missiles at a 15-mile wide UFO solid structure. I mean, this thing's huge. I mean, they were just plinking off of it. I don't know why they thought that would be so effective. If they had nukes at their, in their vicinity, if they wanted to use the nukes. Another thing he mentioned, which I thought these were all just great points, was that, why didn't they launch the nukes from their, secure sites all over the country? I don't know why they would want to fly and fire a nuke, because that puts more of the pilots in danger as well. So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff like that. And another one, which was, if we're talking about technological disadvantages and just ridiculous ideas, was that one of the final encounters that kind of takes the lid off of the whole alien invasion, the whole alien operation, is Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith. They take this old UFO and they fly all the way up to the mothership, and they end up getting abducted, which is good. They wanted that. And Jeff Goldblum, his plan is to upload this virus, which will sort of disable all of the shields for all the UFOs and all of the alien technologies, which is very important, obviously, because they couldn't do anything up until this point because of that. And that I can't even imagine how substantial and incredible this piece of technology would have to be for him to be able to disable that through this giant mothership. I mean, it's unfathomably enormous. And you see him, and he's got some rinky-dinky 1996 laptop, and somehow that's able to disable that signal, which stretches across the whole planet. That's a little ridiculous. They don't really explain. He doesn't hook up to anything. This isn't. I guess this is wireless. It's a signal. It's like a radio signal, I guess. But that doesn't really. That was silly. Didn't make very much sense. And yeah,
Who's
other
to say
than
aliens didn't have great Wi-Fi?
yeah, right. Well, geez, I mean, was Wi-Fi? I don't even
There's
know
no
what the
aliens.
climate of
They could have had Wi-Fi billions of years ago
Well, I know, but how is he able to? How would he even know how to connect to that at that point, right?
because
It's
he's a
just weird to
genius.
think it would be how you would even fathom being able to connect to something like that at this period of time. I don't know. And then the last thing I had to say, which was silly on my end, just thinking about it, which I think I commented while we were watching the film, was Will Smith. He apprehends a helicopter, and he's about to get in trouble for it, but he talks to this other soldier. They're cool. He flies off and he tries to find his girl. I don't remember where they were at. I think they were in New York City. I think they were in New York City. And he flies all the way down there. It's just endless wreckage. And, he once he's there, he's finally in New York. He immediately finds her. He lands, and she's right there, just right in front of him. It's like, okay, come on, man. That's too easy. It was ridiculous. And of course, she's with the first lady, so it's all perfect. It all just lined up too evenly there. So that's where I think it got a little ridiculous. But other than that, there were tons of highlights here, a lot of things to enjoy. What were some of the highlights for you, Luke? Some of your favorite moments from Independence Day?
Um, I like to start off by saying, the visual effects. They weren't. It was 1996, so they were just fine the way they were. I really enjoyed. It felt like watching. I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but it felt like I was watching Star Wars, like the Jedi ships shooting at the Death Star. It
Oh
looks like
yeah,
it.
it
I
was
mean,
very yeah.
it looks like Star Wars. I even commented on that. I thought the visual effects were pretty neat, and $800 million. That's what you'd expect from that, and they really put the time and effort into that.
Oh, that's not how much they spent. That was how much they made.
Oh, that's how much they made. Oh,
Yeah,
well,
geez, that would be crazy if they spent that.
I'm assuming they spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
Not $800 million. That'd be insane. That'd be record
Mhm.
breaking. But anyway, I really enjoyed how the characters worked together. I keep on using the word desperate. How desperation really brings a group of completely different individuals together. The
Yeah.
president, a scientist, a drunk dummy, no offense, and who else was it? And a military pilot.
Mm.
Those four guys, they all completed their missions and they worked together perfectly.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed that, the chemistry between them. They had, Bill Pullman and his wife had a sweet moment at the end, bittersweet.
Mhm. Yeah.
It was a good, he had a good relationship with his daughter and it all worked out. Sorry that you guys don't appreciate a happy ending, but I did. It all
Who's
worked
them?
out.
Who are you talking
Huh?
about?
You, it looks like
Me?
yeah,
I
the
like
people.
it.
Okay, come on. Who's to say that Jeff Goldblum didn't go into alien college and didn't know how to hack into systems?
Ooh, man, people are hating in the chat.
Yeah, I'm just saying it was not likely to happen, but he was a genius and he pulled through. Go Goldblum.
That's true. Go Goldblum. That's right. Yeah. I think I pretty much said everything, like all my highlights. I loved, of course, just Bill Pullman was awesome. I still enjoyed the expedition that Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith went on. I liked their chemistry. I liked them together. That was fun to see. And to check out the mothership and see those aliens a little closer. They're so ugly. Gosh, they're hideous. And then I thought the music was really good. I was wondering if it was like John Williams because it just it had that sort of like weight to it. It was inspiring, it was uplifting, and it was immersive. I mean, you're right in the middle of it. And I love it when they just, I think like beautiful orchestra, it just completes so many movies for me, and it just gets me in the feels every time. And I think that's a big reason why I was able to feel so emotionally invested to these characters was because they're accompanying themes. But yeah, and Randy Quaid was like sort of one of those hidden talents. It's like, you didn't think you'd be really rooting for this guy, but he was awesome. This is an interesting question I have for you, Luke. What do you think would happen in the aftermath of all this? Because at the very end, you see, everything, all of these giant UFOs, they're all crashed, and there's all this debris. I can't even imagine, how do you get rid of all of that? Do you just ignore it and you just go other places? Because where would you even put all of it to? I have no real idea what the big plan would be here. Do you have any ideas?
I'd like to point out, what did they do after World War II?
What did they do?
They probably, I don't know. But we see it worked out, right?
I think everybody was hands-on helping, but I mean, this is like
I'm talking about Germany. The Germany was probably leveled,
Mm,
and look at Germany now.
yeah.
So, just time.
This is so much bigger than that, though. I mean,
Well, I
like,
know, but I'm making an example, the most realistic example. It was a nuclear war. But
Jess, thanks for
oh yeah,
funny. I like this.
or Nagasaki, that was leveled, and look at it now. It's all rebuilt. I know it's,
That's true. This
obviously,
is different than just being leveled. I mean, these things, I can't even imagine how much substance this is here.
well, like I said,
Despite
that's the closest we've gotten. Obviously they're not just going to rebuild it. It's going to take decades to clean up, but they're not just going to fall over and cry, and there's more resources. They only, they can just go to another country. They can go to they only blew up Austin, right? Austin, Texas, New York City. Those are two cities.
I think California was also,
LA, LA. Those are just 3 cities. You got everywhere else. So that's all you got to do. Just hope the aliens don't come back.
I think Gord King, he makes a good point here. He says, in the aftermath, a lot more people would die because of how broken the world economy would be. Yeah, I mean, everywhere in the world is screwed up, and even just these smaller places, they fuel the fire for like other areas in the country, right? The alien tech would be reverse engineered to enhance our technology and help in the recovery. Yeah, and Practifile said something similar. You break the ships down and turn them into new cool stuff.
Yeah, I brought that up too. I mean, you were saying like the whole ship laying there. You can just recycle it. You can like what they
that would be so exciting. This this movie in like more like when we watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I really want to see an alien. I want to see an alien in real life so bad. I really want to see.
Like
it.
I
And
said,
I really hope they're nice. I don't want them to be like this. This would
the
be
only
awful.
way you will see an alien is if they invent teleportation. Because there's no way anyone can get to us. It's I'm not going to go through all the the numbers and science right now, but we are literally like a speck is an understatement. Space is weird and crazy. Teleportation is the only scenario where an alien can come get here.
Yeah, let's see what some of the chat has to say. Thank you all for joining us again. Gord King, Randy Quaid's character is definitely pathetic, as was intended. The arc he goes on is redemptive and works quite nicely. Yeah, man, exactly. TGV Monster, what's up, man? Good to see you. America kicked alien butt. America. Yeah, man.
America.
Fuck yeah. Hey, Cammy's here. Let's tune in.
Hey, Cammy.
Go Jackson and Luke. Thanks, Cammy.
Cammy.
Thanks for joining us. It's good to see you. You're not normally on here with us, so that's fun. Gord King, 38 years later, America's still trying to get rid of aliens. Nice one. Cammy. Gord King, he's always got the little, like, you don't know what you're reading until you think about it for a second. Cammy, I love this movie, but I definitely don't watch it as much as I used to. Aw, that's sad. You should revisit it again. You should revisit it. It was great rewatching this. I've only seen this once. And don't watch the sequel. Unless someone pays you a lot of money to watch the sequel. Let's see. Yeah, Cassie. I mean, I don't understand why he brought his daughter along to walk through Area 51. There would be some horrifying things that she shouldn't see.
Right.
So
I agree.
Yeah, I get that. Let's see. Yeah, cool. And then I also, Luke, it's a big day. July 4th is coming up. You and me both. We have a lot of American cinematic heroes that we admire. I know yours. I know one of them very well, who has been in a room just like the one that we are in the back room, in the background here. But I want us to talk about some of our favorite great American cinematic heroes, because without them, the country wouldn't be the same way that it is today. And I think I've become more patriotic because of a lot of these great films. Now, I did not come up with this very strange list here, but there was a few films that I do love. The Patriot is one of my favorites. I love The Patriot. Mel Gibson's The Patriot. That's what we're going to be talking on Dark Hour show Sunday to talk about. That'll be fun. Saving Private Ryan, of course. That's a classic. Gettysburg's another good one. And Band of Brothers, a must-see World War II series. Just absolutely phenomenal. I think that's the best piece of World War II storytelling I've ever seen, without a doubt. But do any characters, like famous American characters, stick out to you and have inspired you to become the man you are today, or inspire you to be better and to work harder to be a better man tomorrow?
Right here.
Nice.
Sam Wilson. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I'm kidding. Chris Evans, the OG Captain America. This is my This is one of my biggest inspirations growing up.
that's cool.
Yeah, this is cool. Thank you. This is the
no,
Brave New World.
Stop.
You said it. You said, look, that's cool. But
yeah, the shield's cool.
Yeah, that's why I only showed this. But Captain America, is one of my favorite patriotic symbols and inspirations. So, and Rocky Balboa, those two are my favorites. Rocky Balboa might level with Captain America because Rocky just as much as Captain America. Rocky inspired me to run long distances and really push myself to my limits as well as Captain America. So that's just me.
Yeah, I always loved Rocky's training montages.
Oh, that's my favorite, dude. Those are my favorite.
That's probably the best part of his films. I love his training montages. Yeah, those are good ones. For me, I think Mel Gibson is my all-time American star. I've enjoyed so many big movies with him. We Were Soldiers, The Patriot, Signs. I still need to watch his Mad Max films. I haven't seen those. But yeah, I've big fan of Mel Gibson. I love him in Daddy's Home too. That's very small, but I love him in that. That's one of my favorites. It's so fun.
That's a good movie.
But yeah, he's an American legend. I've really enjoyed him, and he's bringing a lot of the heart to film, and I respect that. Even though he gets a lot of hate for Flight Risk, I still enjoyed that. But he was just having some fun. And of course, you have Clint Eastwood. You can't have American film without Clint Eastwood and Stallone, as you said. Sam Elliott, he's another big one. I haven't seen him in too much, but I loved him in 1883. He was great in that. You also have Chuck Norris, classic, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's also a big one. I'm starting to like him even more after watching Terminator 2. If you want to hear my thoughts about T2, everybody, check out last week's stream. We had a great time talking with Random Film Talk and Kyle Cornwith about that. But yeah, those are mine. And those made a big difference. Do any films stick out to you in particular? Like Great American Patriotic films?
We streamed about T2 last week, right?
Yeah, it feels like a long time ago.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
it's weird.
That was
last week.
Wow, that was insane. Because you brought it up, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds very familiar. But anyway, so I keep going.
Yeah, are there any like patriotic films that stick out to you that you love? Maybe war films too, or
I'd say my biggest, other than First Avenger, that's a war film. Other than the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I would say Hacksaw Ridge. He's very patriotic. Come on,
yeah, sure. Everybody loves that. Maybe I just need to watch it again.
A skinny medic that refuses to hold a gun saves plenty of his fellow soldiers and his captain, in a crazy, dangerous and close to death moment. And he's scrawny and skinny, and it's based off a true story. So very inspiring and very patriotic. So that's
okay.
I've been
Mel Gibson directed it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know he was a filmmaker.
Yeah, isn't that cool? Yeah, he's also doing the second Passion of the Christ film, so that'll be cool. Like based on the resurrection, wow. I'm looking forward to that.
He did do Passion of the Christ as well.
Yeah, that'll be good. I still need to see that one, but I think for me, I loved We Were Soldiers, The Patriot. The Patriot's number one. I love that one. Definitely a must see. Have you seen The Patriot? Cass said she fell asleep watching it. That's sad. I love that movie.
Patriot.
Yeah, with Mel Gibson. That's a must see. I love Fury. Fury's great. Lone Survivor. Mark Wahlberg.
There you go, Marky Mark.
Yeah, Marky Mark. I love Mark Wahlberg. Fury. Oh wait, I said Fury already. Yeah, Saving Private Ryan, of course, is great. Everybody likes that one.
Fury.
Yeah, and Forrest Gump too. I mean, that's a classic
Oh,
patriotic
yeah.
film. You gotta love that.
That one's great. Speaking of Forrest Gump, I like to did you hear about Lieutenant Dan? He was remember Lieutenant Dan?
Yeah.
Uh he his tour bus, he was inside of his tour bus, drove right past me as I was
Oh wow.
yeah, he performed at the Van Daly Rec Center a couple weeks ago.
Oh wow, that's
I know,
cool.
yeah, he's in a band, but anyway, Forrest Gump is a great one. Really stuck to me. I've seen that movie more than I can count. Very
You saw
inspiring.
him?
What?
Did you see him or did you see his van?
Oh no, I saw him and his van.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's sweet.
yeah,
Was it like a big van?
it was a tour bus.
Oh wait, Apocalypse Now is another one too. I don't know if that would count. I don't know if it's exactly patriotic, but
Full Metal Jacket.
Cass says Full
Yeah,
Metal Jacket. I want to watch that and talk about that one soon.
That's a vulgar movie.
Yeah, it is. I remember some of it.
Yeah.
Good choice. That's hilarious. Did you wave at him or something?
I know I was making jokes that I was gonna chase after him. Lieutenant Dan! Like
Nice. That'd be
but
fun.
he's
Why wouldn't you want to chase
right.
his man?
I kind of peeked my head into the Van Daly Rec Center and saw him perform just for a second because he's notorious.
What does he do?
He's in a band.
Okay.
Nothing
Isn't
like
it called like Lieutenant Dan something?
I have no clue, but it's not like huge or anything, but it's
Okay, I
pretty
thought he
cool that
leaned in on that.
it's really cool that he co-starred with Tom Hanks and Forrest Gump.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Let's just get to a few more of the comments and then we'll finish up here. Thank you all for watching. Product File. Watch The Man Who Killed Hitler and then The Bigfoot sometime. Undeniably bad movie, but Sam Elliott makes it awesome. Yeah, okay. Never heard of either of those, so thanks, Product File. And Gord King, he's on your side, Luke. Hacksaw Ridge is pretty amazing. What's more remarkable is that they kind of had to downplay his actions because they're even more unbelievable. Man, that's cool. Huh. Let's see. Oh, Cass says Hacksaw Ridge was so gory, but it was really good. I don't remember it being gory.
No, very.
Wow. Okay, maybe we should watch this again. Hacksaw Ridge was great. Dude saved 75 people over the course of a week. My only hang up, what was he eating while he was up there? Yeah, good point. Yeah, because he was up there. Wasn't he alone?
I mean, for parts of it.
Yeah. I need to rewatch that. Everybody seems to like that. Yeah, and then Gord King, yeah, said Full Metal Jacket's really patriotic. It's like that with Apocalypse Now. It's not really patriotic.
It's just depressing.
Apollo
really.
13. Yeah, my pops referenced
Isn't that the
one.
Alien movie?
I think that's where I think that's
Apollo
Tom
18.
Hanks. And
That's Apollo 18 I'm
Yeah.
thinking about. Yeah, that one's crazy.
Nice. Huh. Cool. All right. Well, Luke, do you have anything exciting going on that you want to tell people about?
Yes, I do.
Like YouTube
actually.
related?
Oh, no, YouTube related.
Anything going on?
I'm going to create some content, not on Tuesdays obviously because that's our day, but I'm going to create some movie review content and kind of try that out. And if anyone would like to edit those for me, I'm here.
Nice, Luke.
I'll try for myself, but once I am all set and settled in next month, once I get my setup in the place, I'll highly consider that and go for it. And yeah, Cassie's comment.
Nice.
Yeah, that's not YouTube related. It can go on YouTube.
Nice.
I'm actually
we'll see the highlights of that. Cool.
Yeah.
Great, man. Yeah. Other than that, I think I might be making a video this Friday. Finally, I haven't made one in forever, so stay tuned for that. And not much else. You'll catch me on Dark Hour show. I believe it's this Sunday. Not sure what time, but keep an eye on that. I'm looking forward to joining him and those guys to talk about The Patriot, one of my favorite films of all time. But, at the end of the day, thank you guys for watching. We appreciate you guys and talking to you in the chat. And if you have any thoughts about the film, please let us know in the comments below. I'd love to talk to you all about it. And please make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all the support that you show us. And, enjoy the 4th of July. Enjoy the great country that we're in. And we thank you guys for checking us out. And we'll see you next time.